Hey everybody, welcome back to the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I'm your host, Gordo Gambles, and welcome back to their full card breakdown. This time for UFC Nashville, we have ourselves a 12-fight slate, one that's I'm pretty interested in for a few different reasons, and one that I'm excited to break down from both a DraftKings and a betting perspective. As always, that should be timestamped down below. Quickly before we do so though, last week was insane. I mean, if you haven't seen that Derek Lewis knockout and celebration, then go check that out. That's a world of its own, but we swept our bets, had a very good success rate that way. Gaethje's head kick was insane. It seems to be in the water in Salt Lake City, and it was an overall very, very good night. One that we're looking to keep that momentum rolling into UFC Nashville. One that is pretty important to me because I will be there live in attendance. I know I complain all the time about me having to do my studies. I'm taking the time. I'm driving. I think that's the best part about being down here in the States is I can go down there, I can drive over to Nashville, and I can catch myself some fights, and I am super excited for that. Because of that, I've spent a lot of time researching this card. I'm looking at it pretty analytically because I want to profit off this card. That makes the tickets free, right? And it is a very fun one. Shout out to my boy Billy Quarantillo who helped me out with the tickets there. I'll talk about that later. He is on the card. For those that don't know me, I'll break down every single fight from a DraftKings and a betting perspective, covering all that. At the end of the video, I'll do my quick picks, DraftKings picks, some Reignmakers, and some betting content like that. We do these videos each and every week. Full card breakdown here, content with DailyFanMMA, and starting next week, Dana White Contender Series. Me and Liam's picks fights. We Plays and Fades YouTube channel every 2 weeks. Liam's every other 2 weeks as well. Starting on Liam's channel, 11 p.m. Eastern every Monday night to talk some Dana White Contender Series. But without further ado, we have UFC Nashville at hand. Let's do this. First fight of the night, we have the 12-5 Odi Osbourne taking on UFC newcomer 17-2 Asu Almabayev. What seemed to be a pretty interesting fight, and to be honest, one that I already have a bet on to get the night started. I got 2 bets locked in right now. Actually, I only have one, because the second one's Woodson. We'll talk about that in a second. But truthfully, here we have a prospect, one that is out of the Kazakhstan fight scene, Rakhmonov's boy here, in Asu Almabayev, and a guy who impresses on tape, a guy who seems to have a good foundational knowledge of what he wants to do inside the cage there. A very good, well-rounded skill set, and he thrives in that grappling. A very, very good wrestler. 8 of his 17 wins have come by submission as well, so you know he's confident down there, as well as having some really confident striking with some leg kicks and ability to mix it up. He is going to be a threat at this weight class. Now, there are some flaws. He's a smaller flyweight. Well, against Odi Osbourne, he'll be smaller here for sure. He's relatively untested, but what we do like to see from him is he is a fantastic minute winner. He has multiple ways of getting it done, whether it be with some powerful strikes on the feet, some great control time to win decisions that way as well, and also some submission ability. He has a very well-rounded skill set. You add into that some durability and some cardio as well. The guy's a threat. And although he's untested, although there could be some holes in his game to come, he is a guy who I like here, and he is the guy who I back to start. I got him at minus 145. He's still sitting around minus 160, minus 170. Money is coming on him because people are seeing what I am. He's going to have many advantages in this spot. Odi Osbourne, although battle-tested, you've also seen more UFC holes in him. His cardio fades on the stretch. He can be taken down in control. He can be out-volumed. And although he will have a huge experience, length, and potentially striking advantage here, he doesn't have the same offensive wrestling. He doesn't win the most minutes here, and he seems to tire down the stretch. So if we have that case where we have a guy who is historically great at winning minutes and has great cardio to do so, versus a guy in Odi Osbourne who tires down the stretch and who doesn't win minutes as easily, we have the side who's going to win more optics, and we have the guy who should be favored that way. Now it comes down to the finishing aspect. Who has more finish equity? Well, I've seen more from Osbourne, so I know he has the ability to be very active off his back, very good guillotine if Almabayev shoots in sloppily. But what percentage does that happen? I think an Osbourne submission is possible, but no more than 30% here. And I think for that reason, I cap Almabayev pretty high. He is a guy I want to go out there and play. He is a guy I bet. DraftKings-wise, though, I love this fight because Almabayev, I mean, he's going to go out there and he's going to look to shoot takedowns. A ton of takedowns, kind of control time, some good serviceable striking on the feet as well, and he'll be in there for all 15 minutes. I think he is a great play at 8.6 with solid takedown upside, finish upside, and good minute winning upside as well. Flip side of things, what's the path to victory for Osbourne? Well, he's that GPP play because he is so risky. I think his path to victory relies in that finish equity, and I think although not impossible, when he does win, it will score very well, just at what percentage of the time. So it's the explosiveness of Odi Osbourne for a finish, or the reliability of the wrestler minute winning and well-roundedness of Almabayev to go out there. For that reason, I want this fight as a whole, but I'm picking Almabayev on the money line. I think he's a great DraftKings target as well. This is a very, very fun fight to get the night started. Next up, we have the 9-1-1 Sean Woodson taking on taking on Steve Garcia, taking on Marion taking on Dennis Buzukja. What is going on here? This is the 4th replacement for Sean Woodson this week, and we finally have, and I think this is the last time, Dennis Buzukja coming in on short notice. And wow, a bunch of mixed emotions about this one. Mostly positive because I think Buzukja should have got signed off Dana White Contender Series. I think he's a fun prospect who deserves to be in the UFC. And Sean Woodson, not only is a guy I met because I've seen him around here in St. Louis, very, very nice, kind guy, but I think he's also extremely talented and he has some very good assets here. The reason why I'm upset is because I've done tape on 3 other guys. I bet Woodson against Santos, and I don't know if I'm going to have the same ability to do that against Buzukja here, especially because Woodson is at 9.6K on DraftKings. Actually, I just checked the line here. We do have odds. Woodson's the underdog, and we have a spot where maybe he's a live underdog for the betting line, but at 9.6K on DraftKings, Buzukja's going to be chalk, Woodson's not. Let's break down the fight, though. I think we have a guy here who I have to do more research in, but from what my memory serves me right, and the small bit of tape I did before filming this, Buzukja's got power, man. He's got that Buzukja. He had a solid ability to mix up the grappling in the Contender Series, and unfortunately fell victim to Melsik Bagdasaryan's sniping striking. Other than that, he fought very close against Romero in a dogfight there, one where he lacked a bit of volume, but showed a good, well-rounded skill set, one where he's able to land powerful shots on the feet and also mix in some grappling. Whereas Sean Woodson, on the other hand, his nickname is the Sniper, and he is that. Super, super lanky. The guy looks like Slenderman, but in the nicest way possible, because he goes out there and he really puts hands on guys on the outside. He's 6'2", 78-inch reach. The guy has a lot of range, and he uses that to his advantage. Very, very solid striker with the ability to land from all limbs, and he also has some decent takedown defense. 82% takedown defense in the UFC that allows him to stay on the feet, and that allows him to use his lankiness and length to win these fights. Add in high volume at 5.56 strikes landed per minute, he's a guy I want to go out there and back. Now, there are some red flags. He was knocked out. He was dropped and looked pretty bad last time in a fight in Salt Lake City where controversy happened, but he was dropped in a draw. And against a guy as powerful as Buzukja, that seems to be the problem here. That seems to be the worry. But when you have a guy in Buzukja who's coming in on short notice, who lacks the same volume, technicality, and length that Woodson does, I'm going to have to pick Woodson to win this fight, and I will be betting him at underdog odds. I think he has more minute winning equity. I think he has more length in the striking. I think he has the takedown defense and grappling to put up a fight in the match. So I'll go there. The path to victory for Buzukja is most likely that knockout punch. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It probably is a decent shot of that happening. I just don't think it happens more than a 55-60% implied, which is where his line is right now. I think the value's on Woodson. He's a guy you're looking to bet. DraftKings wise, can't really go to Woodson at 9.6. I don't see him finishing Buzukja all too often. I think he goes out there, scores 80 points in a win, and even at that, it's not a guaranteed win. Fade for me. Buzukja, there's a ton of value on him. He is going to be chalk, and I get why. His path to victory scores well. His implied probability to win scores well. The guy's a good, appealing DraftKings target, and I get it if his salary comes out at 7.2. With that being said, we don't know yet. A lot of questions have to be answered. This seems like a fight I'm going to stay away from on DraftKings. Instead, just look to bet Sean Woodson straight up. Next up, 10-1 Jake Hadley versus the 15-4-1 Cody Durden. I've seen a lot of love for Cody Durden this week. I get it. He's a very solid wrestler. Really impressed last time out. Not only winning that fight, scoring 130 points in the process with 11 takedowns. I mean, that's what you want to see on DraftKings. He's a very appealing prospect. There's a guy in Jake Hadley who is the favorite, and I think rightfully so this week. I see a lot of love for Durden, and I get why, because when we did see Hadley go out there and lose, it was because he was grappled and he was taken down. But really, I think Jake Hadley, it is the A side here. Although Durden is a very solid wrestler, that seems to be his one path to victory. And I'm not saying he can't get it. I think he's a very, very live underdog to do so. But if there's a gun to my head and I have to pick a winner, the guy with more reliable attributes is Jake Hadley. I think he's the far superior striker. I think he's the far better gas tank. And I think he's the better grappler of the two. So although the wrestling and control could be there for Durden, he's going to have to go out there and stay safe for 15 minutes. He's going to have to go out there and rinse repeat takedowns, and he's going to have to avoid the striking and stay safe the whole time against a guy, Jake Hadley, who is very dangerous off his back, all that kind of stuff. The problem is the line's too wide. I get why people are betting Durden. I think you have some good reason to, because he should win this fight more than his line indicates. He has grappling success, and for that same reason, he's a very, 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 very live underdog on DraftKings at 7.4K. I mean, his path to victory is probably going to allow him to go out there and score 112, 129 like he's done before with that grappling. He's going to need to control and neutralize that offense of Jake Hadley, which is harder said than done, but he's going to score very well if he's able to do so. Flip side of things, I think Jake Hadley is a great play this week. If that line comes back down, I'll bet some Jake Hadley just because he has more path to victory. It's just at this line, I don't see it too much. 8.8K on DraftKings. I mean, Hadley has finish upside, late round winning upside as well, but I don't see him taking down Durden too often. I don't see him guaranteeing himself a victory. He'd also be stuck off his back for the first couple rounds, right? So there is a lot of risk associated with Jake Hadley at 8.8, but considering how popular Durden's going to be, I like Hadley as a GPP play because he's not going to attract that much love. He is going to be very viable in his own right. I think Jake Hadley's the side here, and although I'm going to have a ton of ownership of Durden because he is one of the most live underdogs here, I'm picking Hadley. I think he has more paths to get it done, and he himself is a good GPP pivot. Next up, the 17-5 Billy Quarantillo, 22-5-1 Damon Jackson. Let's talk for a second. Billy Q, no chance you're watching this, but if you are, man, I owe you a beer. Not only have you been one of my favorite fighters that I've talked about a lot on this show, because we know here at DraftKings players, we love our cardio machines, but stand-up guy, he's the reason I'm going to this fight. straight up. I was always interested in going to the fight, but I reached out to him, see if he had tickets. He got me a great deal on them, and I'll be sitting in some decent spots thanks to Billy Quarantillo, who answered his DMs right away. He was there and who's helping me get to the cage this weekend, and I'll be his biggest fan. I mean, Billy Q is DFS gold, and I'm a DraftKings player first, and for that reason, you love to back him. When he's winning fights, he's scoring 125, 141, 109, 85, and 131. The guy's style is to break people, to melt people down the stretch, and it is so fun to watch. He is a cardio machine, lots of pressure, great output, averages over 8 strikes landed per minute on the feet, and has some good grappling to back. Now, he has a guy in Damon Jackson in front of him who's kind of looks to do the same, but strictly with grappling. He likes to go out there, control you, take you down, and impose his will on the mat. He did very well in doing so against Sabatini, did very well in doing so against Kirk and Rosa, but has struggled. And I think that there is a clear difference in these guys' styles this week, although they have that same fundamental, we want to break you kind of background. Billy Quarantillo is going to want to strike here. He's going to be so much faster than Damon Jackson. He's going to have a ton of advantage on the feet, and we've seen Jackson tired down the stretch where we haven't seen that from Billy Q. Jackson, on the other side of things, he's going to want to take down, control, and look to submit Billy Q, something that's easier said than done considering how active and energetic Billy Q is here. So to me, the real side here is Billy Q, and this is a fight you really want to target. I think the one path to victory for Damon Jackson is going to be an early submission, something I don't cap to happen too often, but if it does, something that's going to score very, very well at 7.3K. But if he's not able to get that, he will melt down the stretch. Quarantillo will get him out of there, and he will be a far superior striker on the feet. We have seen Quarantillo knocked out in the past, but I don't think Damon Jackson is fast enough or as sharp of a striker to do the same thing that Edson Barbosa did. I mean, it's a big jump from Barbosa to Jackson, and although I think Jackson is live for a grappling path to victory, I don't know necessarily how much he wins the striking exchanges. It should be Billy Q's world. So to me, at 8.9K, I love Billy Q. I think he marches him down, stuffs the takedowns, breaks Jackson's will, and I'll be so excited to be in the front rows to watch that happen. Great DraftKings target. I'll probably bet him round 2, round 3 inside the distance. A very, very fun fight, but one where Jackson is also live as an underdog because his path to victory scores so well. Speaking of fun fights, 12-2-1 Jeremiah Wells, 18-5 Carlson Harris. Simply put, this is going to be fun for as long as it lasts, because both these guys are offense first, defense second, and it makes for a very, very fun fight. Harris is a very, very dangerous man. I mean, his first 2 wins, he went out there and scored first-round finishes. He's got a lot of finish ability. 10 of his 18 wins have come inside the distance, including some very good submission ability there as well. Over 3 takedowns landed for 15 minutes. He did well in landing 5 against Gooden there as well, and he is a fun guy to go out there and watch. Wells, on the other side of things, is just a ball of energy, a ton of muscle, very, very explosive fighter, and he himself has scored some nice wins. First round knockout over Court McGee, first round sub of Blood Diamond. He has such a well-rounded arsenal that he's gone out there and he's reeled out 4 wins, including one where he landed 6 takedowns against Matthew Semmelsberger, and I think that's why he's leaning to be the favorite here. But what he's been able to do is use that explosive power, and the way we've seen Harris lose is via knockout, one where he's gone out there and he's been chin checked. That seems to be his biggest liability here, and it seems to be Wells' biggest strength. The problem is, Wells was rocked a ton by Semmelsberger, and his chin isn't perfect either, making this for a very dangerous fight from either side. I think a guy's going to sleep either way, and if I had to pick a winner, it's just who lands first, and it's such a toss-up that I see some viability underdog in Carlson Harris, a guy in Harris who has such a strong grip and such unorthodox striking to cause problems for Wells. Now, would I be surprised if Wells went out there and knocked out Carlson Harris? No, not at all, but I think Harris has the ability to mix in some grappling and some control time as well, and has the ability to throw these strikes from unorthodox angles to cause problems for Wells. Either way, I want this fight on DraftKings. I don't really want to pick a side because of how dangerous it is, but I want this fight. 7.7, 8.5K. The win should come inside the distance, should come under 1.5 rounds, and I think either side of it, you're going to want to have one of them. Both these guys are very powerful guys with not the best chins. I think the winner's optimal. Let's just put it that way. So give me Harris because he's an underdog and has shown a decent resurgence recently. I think this will be a very, very fun fight, and I'm super excited to watch it. Then we get the 17-4 Raoni Barcelos, 10-2 Kyler Phillips. Kyler Phillips off of his suspension, and Barcelos off of that fight against Nurmagomedov. And first of all, let's give some love to Raoni. Fighting anybody that stands in front of him here. I mean, from the Valievs to Tudor Nurmagomedovs to all these guys who have been on good runs. I mean, Raoni Barcelos, although 1-3 in his last 4, has been fighting killers, and he is getting up there in age. His chin looks scary after the knockout last time, but man, is this guy talented. Terrific striker, great volume, amazing jiu-jitsu and good wrestling as well. Add in some good takedown defense and good optics. The guy has the potential to be a star. The problem with him is that chin is terrifying after that knockout last time, considering he's getting up there in age. because if that chin goes, he does absorb a decent amount of volume. And he can be out volume the same way Victor Henry did in a very, very close fight there. But truth be told, he has such an insane skill set. It's crazy to see him at 7.2K or a plus 170 underdog. And I do think this line is wide. But in doing so and doing my research, although my first thought was Barcelos, I mean, Kyler Phillips has a very, very good skill set. And he's also a very dangerous guy. This is the same guy as a win over Song Yadong. This is the same guy who has a very, very good ability to win MMA fights, especially in the UFC, because he mixes in his takedowns, has incredible volume and technicality on the feet as well, and is a very, very well-rounded prospect. The problem with him is he kind of tires down the stretch, and in this matchup here, he's not going to be able to use all his arsenals because he likes to do spinning attacks on the feet and mix in takedowns to steal round. And although he has the ability to do that, maybe not with the best success, but also do that here. I mean, taking down Barcelos, who is so talented on the ground, is not the best idea. Spinning so much against Barcelos, who has really good cardio, is not a good idea because Barcelos will still be there. It feels like Phillips going to have to get Barcelos out of there. And I think that's definitely a possibility considering we saw the chin of Barcelos start to deteriorate last time. I just don't think you want that to be the main criteria for someone at 9K. I think this fight is a lot closer than lined here, and I think it's one that I don't really want too much action on because Barcelos has the skills to pose a problem against anybody here. And again, Kyler Phillips, who we can't trust on in round 3, who we can't rely on to land takedowns at a high clip here, and who is facing a guy who's just as sharp on the feet, is not someone I want to be laying minus 200 on. So for that reason, pass on the betting market side of things, maybe an under, but pass on the betting market side of things. DraftKings-wise, Phillips is hard to get to. I think he has finish upside, so for that reason, he's a good GPP play, but Barcelos is very alive, man. I think he has submission upside here. He has late round finish upside, and he's a ton of volume. I think at 7.2K, Brownie Barcelos is a decent look this weekend in what should be a very, very fun fight. Overall, really tough to call, though, and I'm excited to see it play out. And I mean, this next fight kind of just is the exact same thing. Ignacio Bahamondes, 14-4, Ludovic Klein, 19-4-1. Klein is one of my most backed underdogs. I mean, I love the guy, but he's kind of facing a rough stretch. And I think when we first look at this fight, everyone was on Bahamondes. I mean, he's the guy with gaining more momentum, the younger fighter, incredible height and reach advantage here, and some good takedown defense to back against the potential of Klein. But I think this line is rising too much. And I think it's very similar to the last one in Phillips and Barcelos, maybe not to the same extent, but one that I think is more dangerous for Bahamondes than people are going out there, and one where I don't recommend parlaying Bahamondes this week because of, although we've seen incredible offensive technicality from Bahamondes and a great rounded skill set, he's going to be facing a guy who's super explosive. He's going to be facing a guy who looks to be the more well-rounded prospect and one who's going to look to mix up his game plan. And in doing so, has the power to hit that tall man's defense of Ignacio Bahamondes, has the power to cause problems here, and one where I think the line should be a bit closer. Now, gun to my head, I'm still picking Ignacio Bahamondes because I think he has that reach in the immeasurables and more passive victory than Klein. I'm just saying the line shouldn't be that wide. DraftKings-wise, kind of fading on this fight because I think if you look up top, this fight should probably go longer, and even at that, the most Bahamondes scored is 103 there in a finish win. I don't think he outscores Sandhagen, don't think he outscores Suarez, don't think he outscores Quarantillo. I'm not getting to Bahamondes as much. I do think Klein is live, though. Maybe not my favorite underdog, but one with GPP upside because he does have the power to knock out anybody, although tougher against Bahamondes. And I think if he wins this fight, it's going to come with a lot of volume, a lot of pressure, and maybe some takedowns sprinkled in. GPP play for Klein, but overall, not the fight I'm looking to target the most. Next up, 20-10-1 Tanner Boser, 6-2 Alexa Camur, and don't get me wrong, I'm super pumped to be able to see some Canadians live this weekend. Don't know if Tanner Boser is the right one I want to see live, but still, a guy I'm excited to see nonetheless. But this is probably the least enticing matchup of the card, where you have a guy in Tanner Boser who's been kind of streaky. Although he's fighting at 205, hasn't had the best success rate. I mean, he's 1-4 in his last 5, and his one win came against Open Say Prue. Harder to rely on him here. And on the flip side of things, Alexa Camur is a guy we haven't seen in forever. I mean, Camur, wow. Camur's last 2 losses came to Nick Negumereanu and William Knight. Not the most attractive thing in the world, but he's still young. He could be making improvements, and Tanner Boser is not someone I want to be backing at all here, especially at chalk. And although I'll be cheering for him as a Canadian, it's a closer matchup here. You got a guy like Alexa Camur who, although is a primary striker and doesn't like to be controlled against the cage, is probably going to be slower than Tanner Boser. It's probably not going to have that same cardio, but being away from the cage so long, he could have made the right improvements. It seems to be a big wow. For that reason, we could completely see a 50-minute kickboxing affair, the one that's very slow-paced, one where Tanner Boser is going to have the better in-and-out movement and really test the improvements that Camur could be making to the side, but really without too much grappling upside, without too much finish upside. I don't see me getting into this one. I mean, do I want to target this fight over the Quarantillo Jackson fight, over the Almabayev Osbourne fight, over the Wells Harris fight? Not really. This seems to be a pass for me. One that'll be cheering for Boser, but a lot of learning to be done in this spot, and one where we'll have to sit back and gauge it. Let's go Canada, though, to say the least. And then the second Canadian, Gavin Tucker, 13-2. Diego Lopes, 21-6. This time, it's a Canadian that's coming off the big layoff. 37-year-old Gavin Tucker is, 2.5 years off from that loss to Danny Gay? And he's facing Diego Lopes, the guy who won everyone's heart in the loss against Mozler Ivlev. Made me sweat a lot because I had a lot of Ivlev that night, and what seemed to be a pretty exciting matchup there. We know he has great submission skills. He's his job as a coach here, but he has also shown some very powerful striking, and he's going to have a huge size advantage here against the returning Gavin Tucker. Now, Gavin Tucker, I think, is extremely talented. I think he's a better technical striker here. I think he has the jiu-jitsu to put up with Lopes, and I think he's a phenomenal wrestler in his own right. I mean, he averages nearly 3 takedowns for 15 minutes. Like I said, has that black belt and has some very powerful and active hands on the feet as well, but for him, it's just a big reliability thing. He's 4-2 in the UFC, including some good wins over Choi and Quarantillo there. And although he's only lost 2 fights, they came in pretty dominant fashion. I mean, knocked out in 5 seconds to Dan Ige, and then beaten with a 10-7 round against Ricky Glenn. He seems when he takes that step up in competition, he can lose. And at 37 years of old at this weight class, it's hard for me to trust him. But I do think he has more paths to victory here. I mean, I think he's going to be the far more technical striker on the feet. Although not having that reach advantage, I think he's got the ability to win the minutes there. And the flip side, if he's really as talented as he is on the mat with that black belt, you can control Lopes. Anybody can control Lopes. He's so comfortable in his ground game, you can take him down, he can fight off his back. I mean, we saw that against the Joannis Brito fight there, and it seems to be one where Tucker has more paths of victory to get this done. And if this line continues to climb, I'll have to take him. The problem is, if he's going to wrestle and be taken down, Lopes has submission upside. If he's going to strike on the feet and his chin is deteriorating, Lopes has finish upside. It's just Tucker's going to win more minutes, but I think he is the better fighter of the two. A very, very interesting dynamic here, one where it's hard for me to trust him. The line keeps climbing, though. I'll gladly take a shot in the Canadian Gavin Tucker. DraftKings-wise, because the finish upside, Lopes is very live at 8.3. I think he is going to be decently popular. Tucker at 7.9. He does have some viability as well, but his path to victory is more decision-based. It's more control time, and I don't think it scores as well as the Harrises or the Osbournes or the Durdens of the world. So, although I'm picking Tucker here, am I picking Tucker? Although it's a very, very close fight, there is more value on Lopes here considering he has more finish upside. Next up, 18-7-1 Dustin Jacoby, 12-3 Kennedy and Nzechkwu. Super, super fun fight. One that's pretty binary. Is Justin Jacoby a guy who I haven't been too high on? Let's put it that way, to say the least. The guy was a fantastic striker. I mean, that's what he is. He is a powerful striker from range. A ton of volume, and he wants to keep it on the feet. He used to fight in glory kickboxing. That's what his path to victory is. And Kennedy Nzechkwu is a guy who's made incredible improvements since coming to the UFC and being these hefty underdogs. I mean, he went out there and rope-a-doped Ulberg to give Ulberg his only loss. Came back an incredible comeback victory against Marquez, and then since then, takedowns, control time against Roberson, standing guillotine against Devin Clark. I mean, he has been on a roll and is making the proper improvements. And I think that the old Kennedy Nzechkwu would be a huge underdog here because the old Kennedy Nzechkwu just liked to strike. He was slower from range, and Dustin Jacoby would pick him apart, and he would be a much better here. But if you're going out there and you're landing 5 takedowns against Carl Roberson, and you're getting that knockout, and you're showing a diverse arsenal, and I think you have the ability to beat Dustin Jacoby because Dustin Jacoby can be hit in his own right, can be taken down, and if you're durable enough to withstand the power coming back your way, you could win minutes here. And for that reason, gun to my head, I think I have to pick Kennedy Nzechkwu is just not with as much confidence because I think the far better technical striker is Dustin Jacoby, and for that reason, if Nzechkwu doesn't wrestle, he doesn't live up to his price tag. But he does have a decent path to victory, adding to yet another very good favorite at that low 8,000 range. So path to victory for Nzechkwu scores well. Dustin Jacoby's a guy, though, you don't want to count out and you don't want to strike with 50 minutes. Let's just put it that way. So pick is Canadian Nzechkwu. He has a lot more DraftKings upside as well. I just don't know if I can get to the window to bet it because we don't know necessarily what game plan Nzechkwu's coming in with. He is making all the proper improvements, though, and I'm excited to see what he brings next. Should be a very fun fight. Co-main event, then. 9-0 Tatiana Suarez, 24-11 Jessica Andrade. Massive favorite. Biggest favorite on the card. Although there is some buyback coming in on Andrade, if Tatiana Suarez, 9-0. The one that people thought was going to be champion by now, and if it wasn't for that 4-year layoff, she would be, probably. She's extremely talented, phenomenal wrestler, someone who averages over 6 takedowns per 15 minutes and is very dominant in doing so. If you look at her wins, I mean, she's gotten 13 minutes control time, 13 minutes control time, 8 minutes of control time, 6 in her last fight where she got a second round submission. Like, she's a very dominant grappler, and she's facing someone in Jessica Andrade who was at the top of the world, but seems to have kind of lost her footing recently, losing her last two to Blanchfield, up-and-coming wrestler. That's kind of what people are comparing her to, and that's why Tatiana Suarez is such a big favorite. But she's someone who has the skills to pay the bills. She was champ at one point. We cannot forget that. It just is her heart in the right place. She seemed to lose that mentality in there. She's taken a ton of fights in rapid succession to go out there and pay the bills, and if that's not paying enough bills for her, she's doing OnlyFans as well. So it's hard for her to see where her heart is really at this point. She has a tall task ahead. Tatiana Suarez is going to be the far better wrestler in this matchup. Jessica Andrade is going to be the far better striker. Let's put it that way. Am I going out there and parlaying Tatiana Suarez at 425? Probably not, because again, she's coming off a long layoff. Her cardio could be in question, and the far more experienced, better striker, Jessica Andrade. But who am I picking to win is Tatiana Suarez. Not even close. She has the path to victory. She seems to be the more motivated fighter at this point of her career. And I truly think she has the physicality and skills to really impose her will on someone who is of smaller stature like Jessica Andrade. Suarez is going to be 4 inches taller. I think she is the stronger fighter of the two. And I do think she has the ability to look very dominant in her performance. I think she's a decent cash play because if she loses, it's probably by later finish by Andrade, which I don't see happening too often. I think she's going to have the ability to go out there and land a few takedowns early, control Andrade, and look to make her quit the same way Erin Blanchfield did. So, although it's not what I'm going to look at to the parlay, I think Suarez could look very, very dominant here, and I think she's in the better mind space. She is someone who I think is a good pay-up option on DraftKings and someone who should win this fight at a high clip. But it's still a lot of learning for me to do on these two. I kind of want to sit back and just enjoy these two very exciting, talented women to go at it in the co-main event. In the main event, Rob Font, 20-6, stepping in on short notice versus the 16-4 Corey Sandhagen. Fun fight. I'm super happy that Font could save it. I wanted to see Umar, but now we got Corey Sandhagen, a huge favorite, and I agree. Rob Font is extremely technical boxer. He displayed that last time against Yanez, an incredible win. But he's going to have far less path to victories here. I mean, he's not going to have that same finish upside that Sandhagen does, in my opinion. And his path to victory is going to be outboxing Sandhagen from range for 25 minutes. And I don't think he can do that, especially on short notice. I think Sandhagen has the grappling upside, the finish upside, and the volume upside. And I mean that in punches coming from all angles. I think he just has more paths to get it done, and that's why he's favored. Same thing. We've seen Rob Font, knocked down and dropped, and he could have been finished in a lot of these fights. Could have been finished against Aldo, could have been finished against Vera. In that first fight against Yanez bit off more than he can chew early on. So we have a point in his career where you're facing the most dangerous guy you fought yet, a guy in Sandhagen who's a very active, proactive finisher, and one that I see him having a ton of advantages. Sandhagen is going to push a very, very heavy pace, has great cardio to do so, and a great, well-rounded skill set to win wherever this fight goes, and I think that he should be this big of a favorite, and I think he should win this fight at a very high clip. I think he knocks out Rob Font, but it should be a very, very fun fight for as long as it lasts. Give me Sandhagen. He has more paths to get it done. Font could go out there and, in his last 5-round decision, he scored 114. He has a ton of volume in his own right, and if he can keep up with Sandhagen and survive all 25 minutes, this could potentially be another spot where a dog at 6.9K could come through. But I think Sandhagen is a very violent guy. He has better cardio, better durability, better power, better ground game. I think it's Sandhagen's world, and I think he's a very, very viable pay-up option at the 9K range. That's going to do it for me here on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. Quickly, let me give you my quick picks. Taking Corey Sandhagen in the main event, Tatiana Suarez, Kennedy Nzechkwu. We'll take a shot on Gavin Tucker, although I wouldn't be surprised if Lopes pulls it off against the older Tucker. Tanner Boser, Ignacio Bahamondes. Going back and forth on this one, I think I'm going to pick Rowdy Barcelos, but very similar to the Tucker breakdown there. We're going to take Carlston Harris. We're going to take Billy Quarantillo, Jake Hadley, Sean Woodson, and Asu Almabayev. In terms of bets I've locked in so far, I do have Asu Almabayev locked in. I'll probably end up betting Sean Woodson right now if he's still at plus money against Buzukja. I'll be betting late round props on Quarantillo Jackson. Probably end up parlaying Sandhagen with the under in the Harris and Wells fight. Line on Hadley comes back down. I'll take a shot on him as well. DraftKings wise, there's a ton of fights at target, including that Wells-Harris fight, Almabayev Osbourne, Quarantillo Jackson, and the main event. Up top, cash wise, Suarez and Sandhagen are the go-to. GPP, Sandhagen and Quarantillo stand out far more than everybody else. Mid-range, Almabayev, Wells, and Nzechkwu are the three you want to go to. Lopes is a good pivot because his path to victory is most likely a finish. Dog-wise, let's all loop it into one. I think the most popular underdog is going to be Cody Durden because of that wrestling upside. I think him, Font, and Barcelos' path to victory score very, very well, but instead I lean more towards the Harris and Tucker and GPP, who are very dangerous to back here, but very high upside in their own right. And it all really comes down to where Dennis Buzukja is lined as well, because although I'm picking Woodson, we could get some discrepancy there. Finally, last but not least, Reignmakers. I think that Billy Quarantillo, highest scaling on the slate. Corey Sandhagen not far behind. Asu Almabayev is there as well, and then pick your side. Wells, Harris, Suarez, and Hadley Durden. But long-winded. Hopefully that didn't take too long. I'm very passionate about this card considering I'm going to be there live. That's going to do it for us here on the Plays of Faith YouTube channel. Quickly, hit the like button down below, subscribe to the channel. Dana White Contender Series starts next week, so check that out on Liam's channel. Check me out on Twitter, @GamblesGord. If you guys have any questions, slide into the DMs. Be happy to talk fights there. Wish everybody the best of luck in your DraftKings and betting endeavors. Enjoy the card. If you're in Nashville, feel free to come say hi. It should be a very fun card, but enjoy the fights, guys. Let's make some money.